massive project. And what we're trying to do is help you to figure out the way to get beyond betrayal. And we have a number of steps that we've identified that will help you to forgive people who have hurt you or betrayed you along the way. And so today what we're looking at step 5, and that's essentially to forgive all you can. You know, the journey to forgiveness usually isn't easy to make, and I can testify to that. But it's the only way that you will know peace, joy, and freedom that awaits you beyond betrayal. So step 5, forgiving all you can, is an important step along the way, and it helps you to make even more progress. We've already covered steps 1 through 4, and you can see those in our previous videos, and I'm going to be creating a playlist of those so that you can access our previous content. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and we will talk about step number 5. We'll be right back. Hello, Karen. Thank you for joining me for this broadcast. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about this project.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and it's interesting because even in my Facebook feed, my own personal Facebook feed, there have been different questions popping up that's actually related to this topic of interpersonal forgiveness. And they're a lot kind of like more philosophical in nature. And I'm working on kind of helping to guide people through that process too. But today we're going to be taking a much more practical approach. And this is this whole idea of forgiving all you can. And so that's step 5 here in our journey to forgiveness. And as always, we have some slides that we're going to be walking through. And so let's just go ahead and take a look at those and see what we can learn along the way. And feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have a comment or an observation, or if you want to offer a little bit of pushback on anything that I've said or anything like that. And I'm also going to try to get my comment window up for people. If you're viewing and you want to make a comment there on Facebook or YouTube, you can do that. And hopefully we'll be able to see that in our comment window here and respond to that along the way if you'd like to interact with the broadcast yourself. So step number 5, forgive all you can. And this is, we're talking about the journey to forgiveness. And I've identified 10 steps to forgiveness. And this is really an outgrowth of my work in anti-human trafficking,
Mm-hmm.
where I have been involved in the past in helping kids who had been victimized. And I was involved with writing a curriculum to guide them through the process of healing, growth, and recovery. And this is what I came up with, in this process of kind of like how we can outline by going step by step to find true forgiveness and to set our wounded hearts free. So previously we've talked about choosing to forgive, examining yourself. Let me bring those slides back up. So we talked about choosing to forgive, examining yourself, and identify their offenses and your losses. Feel your feelings, and now we're at this step on forgive all you can. And this is an important step. And you'll notice, by the way, that other things are coming along, other steps that will relate to that a little bit further downstream, but we want to just focus on this one right now. So let's talk a little bit about forgiveness. Why, Karen, I'm asking you, why do you think that it's important to forgive others unconditionally? does that mean that you have to let them back in your life? So there's two basic models of
Mm-hmm.
interpersonal forgiveness within the Christian community. And one is unconditional forgiveness. And that's the model that I believe in and that I teach. And then there's the model of conditional forgiveness. And that is that, when another person is repentant and that is apologetic, makes amends, repentant, is that you forgive them. And so, and I think that you generally subscribe to the unconditional model of forgiveness. Why do you think it's important to forgive people unconditionally?
Yeah, well, there's going to be people in your life that don't ask for forgiveness, but we're not called to forgive only the people who ask for forgiveness or repent or anything like that. We're called to forgive people even if they don't like ever even realize what they've done, how it hurts you, or take responsibility for that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, and as I've been kind of drilling down into this with some of my Facebook friends, and I can see that we're kind of operating with two different understandings of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
One, when I think about forgiveness, I think about it as completely releasing feelings of resentment, bitterness, and revenge towards someone who has hurt you. You think that that's a pretty fair understanding of forgiveness?
I think it's hard to know exactly when you've forgiven someone, like what that point is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you always release the resentment part. I mean, I guess it's hard to say for me exactly because that hurt doesn't necessarily go away. The thing that they did is still wrong against you,
Mm-hmm.
so it's hard to really say define in my mind like how it is when I've forgiven somebody, except for I guess um I've kind of released them to God,
Mm-hmm.
like say, okay, it's not my place to judge them, and just move on,
Yeah.
you know, past that.
Yeah. I would say this, and I thoroughly appreciate your your observations on that and your candor on that. I think that there's a difference between remembering hurt and feeling resentment.
Hmm.
You know, and so I don't think that. I do not believe. I completely reject the idea of forgive and forget.
Yeah.
I practice forgive and remember.
Hmm.
And so, and that, and so, and that doesn't mean that you continue to hold the wrong against the other person, but you realize that they have the capacity to do that,
Yeah.
and and then so that's truly going to determine my decisions or govern some of my decisions about restoring the relationship with them.
Hmm.
And so so I think, and I don't want to put words in anybody else's mouths, but when I'm hearing these folks on Facebook that have commented on this, I think that in their heads that they tend to think of forgiveness as either reconciliation and restoration of the relationship. And I think that it's completely possible to to forgive someone totally and still not want to have anything to do with them, you know.
Yeah.
And so that actually comes back to this second part of this question here, is that and does that mean that you let them back into your life? And obviously, you'd be stupid to do that if a person was unrepentant and still practicing harmful behaviors and is not a safe person to be around. And
Yeah.
that some of the most safe people to be around are the people who think they're safe. you know, I mean, seriously, it's that some of those folks are really dangerous to be around.
Yeah.
because
Yeah, that's true.
they're just completely oblivious to the times that they create wreckage in other people's lives. And in some cases, they feel completely justified in doing so.
Yeah. I
You know,
kind of
some,
think most people, even like you think of like the evilest person that you can think of, I don't think that they think I'm a horrible person, I'm really bad. I kind of think they think I'm right, everybody else is wrong, or my way of doing things is the better way of doing things. Like, how
yeah,
many people really think they're bad in their own mind, you know?
yeah. We have a term for those unsafe people who think everybody else is, that I'm right and everybody else is wrong, and that's narcissist.
Hmm.
You know, so all
Yeah.
right, let's go on with our slides here. So, I think that it's completely possible to forgive people unconditionally, even if they are not repentant,
Hmm.
sorry, or, you know, have made any amends. And I think it's completely possible to forgive people and want to have nothing to do with them. you
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Right.
we're not obligated to have relationships with people, you
Yeah.
know. So let's go ahead and look at our next slide here. So we're talking here about forgive all you can. And forgiveness applies to our hurts and
Hmm.
losses. The two are related, but they're not the same. The hurt is what was said or done to you that caused you pain and suffering, while the loss involves the negative impact that you've experienced as a result of being hurt. One hurt can cause multiple losses. Unpack that a little bit for us and tell me what you think.
Yeah, maybe it's easier to just kind of give an example. So, like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if you get into a car accident, that's a hurt.
Yeah.
What the losses are, you've lost your vehicle, you've
Mm-hmm.
lost maybe some physical health, you've
Yeah.
lost some safety,
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe you're afraid of going on back on the road, so
Yeah.
you've lost some security and
Mm-hmm.
feelings that you had in that sense. So,
Yeah. You know. Yeah, it's a great example. And so we can begin to apply that to a number of scenarios. For
mhm,
instance, if there's been unfaithfulness in the marriage, that's the hurt.
right.
But then there's a cascading number of losses
Yeah.
that follow that hurt. And so,
Mhm.
what we're talking about here is that forgiveness, I believe, applies to both of those things. And I think that that's why people get stuck, is because they just focus on the hurt and they don't really think about the loss
Yeah.
and work through that. And so let's go ahead. You were going to say something that looked like.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking, it's kind of like if you think about a stone getting thrown into the water, is the
Mm-hmm.
stone is the hurt, and then the ripples are the losses.
Oh, that's wonderful. I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Okay.
and I'm not even going to give you credit. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, at least I have proof.
yeah, yeah, you have some sort of of definitive record that you were the one who originated that metaphor. So let's go ahead and so what I always encourage when I'm working with clients, what I always encourage them to do is, when we're at this stage, is that I encourage them to identify their losses. Now, your hurt is easy to identify because that normally is the subject of your rumination.
Yeah.
What do we mean by rumination?
It's a thing like keeps going over and over and over in your mind, like you're trying to solve this problem, like why did this happen? And you're,
Mm-hmm.
you know, yeah. So it would be like if you got, if you were in an unfaithful marriage, your spouse had cheated on you. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, I can't believe that they did this. And oh, I feel so, like neglected. And oh, what happened here? And maybe if I only did this,
yeah,
or,
yeah, yeah,
all those kind of things.
yeah, yeah. So there's a, so that is the hurt is the subject of our rumination.
Hmm.
However, the loss is different. And in order to move past our hurts, that it's helpful to identify your losses and name them one by one. You know, there's an old Christian song that about count your blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Well, well, when it comes to naming your losses, you need to count your losses and name them one by one, and it may surprise you what your offender has done. you know, so, and and obviously, and it's interesting because, and here's something. And this is just an ironclad rule, is that when a person is stuck in anger, what has to happen next for them is to move into sadness. Anger feels so powerful to us, but it keeps us stuck in our grief, and we cannot move forward until we move into this season of sadness. The sadness, however, almost is scary to us because we feel powerful when we are angry, but we feel overwhelmed when we are sad.
Hmm.
And that is, but nevertheless, you got to do that. So the 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 algorithm is essentially it's hurt, anger, sadness, which is part of the grief, forgiveness, and then you either release the relationship or you remake it. And
Hmm.
and so that's what the, the process is for working through this stuff. So in order to move past our hurts, we have to identify our losses and name them one by one, because you cannot forgive an unnamed loss. And what we're talking, remember here, is that we're talking about how that forgiveness applies to both hurts and losses.
Hmm.
And you see, people get stuck when they think that forgiveness is just about the hurt. But when we begin to open it up and identify our losses and begin examining those and working through those one by one, but we cannot move forward until we have named our losses. Any comments about that?
Yeah, I think sometimes we underestimate how much the losses are affecting us versus the hurt. I mean, like the
Mm-hmm.
car accident example, you know, is that um, the getting in the accident isn't that bad, isn't as bad as the fact all the things that come from that as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's easy to get caught up in just focusing on the car accident, that
Yeah.
one moment, but really that's your past. The losses are hanging with you in your present.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's a good observation. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. Um, so what I encourage folks to do is to sort through each loss. And I have a little matrix that I encourage them to consider. And it can be helpful to examine each loss and consider whether you have forgiven it. Once you have the whole list down, you can consider whether you have forgiven that, are willing to forgive it, and or are not willing to forgive it. Now, and that can be disturbing for some Christians, because Christians typically want to rush through this type of stuff because they have a lot of, I think, distorted understandings about what Jesus really teaches about forgiving others. And so we should not, however, be afraid of being honest with ourselves and God, because he knows it already. you know
Yeah.
when we are stuck on a particular issue that we're just not willing to forgive yet.
Yeah.
And I think that that's completely okay, because what happens typically is that preachers, and I'm a preacher too, and I'm a pastor, and so I understand this, and I know the damage that spiritual leaders can do to other people
Hmm.
by not being wise on this particular topic. But it's okay to be where you're at in your journey and to be honest with God, because that's the only way you can make genuine progress in your journey. Because as long as you're in denial and you act as if, oh yeah, I've forgiven them for that or whatever, well, you're not, you haven't practiced forgiveness, you've practiced denial.
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
two the two are not the same. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
I
were you
think
going to say something? Go ahead.
it's easy sometimes to not be honest, not only with God but yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because um you don't want that to be the reality. Like
Yeah.
you're so we're kind of so conditioned to like make our reality look like it's all, polished and
Instagram,
everything.
Instagram Christianity.
Right. And so um and I think sometimes you think like, okay, um I don't want to tell God that I'm mad at him for this or that,
Mm,
because I think as Christians also too, like you read the Old Testament, you don't want to be like smited by God because you say something, you know, and but God's big enough and He knows already how you feel, and so it's not like you're not hiding anything from God
yeah.
or tricking God.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you might trick yourself a little bit or trick others, but God knows already,
Yeah.
and so might as well be honest about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So okay. So yeah, I appreciate your insights. It says here, it's important to remember, by taking inventory of where you're at on your forgiveness journey, you can see the progress you've made and what direction you're heading. Don't feel bad if you cannot forgive anything or everything at this time. Anytime you forgive something, no matter how small it is, you're making progress, you know. So that, when I was working on this project for these kids that were survivors of sex trafficking, is that it'd be completely irresponsible for me to think that somehow that they could just, you know, make this journey in one big leap.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot of struggle, a lot of kind of progress and relapse and so on and so forth. And it's just complete. God is less concerned about the progress that you've made than he is about what direction you're heading.
Yeah.
And as long as we're oriented towards working through this, that we are going to we're moving in the right direction, even when we're struggling. You
Hmm.
know.
And most subjects that you learn, you start off learning it at the basic level, and you get
Mm-hmm.
to a more advanced level as you go. Why? would we think that that would be different with forgiveness? I mean, why not start with the most basic things that are grievances against us and work our ways up to the things that are more advanced?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, how about for you? What was your pivot point when you decided to move from being victimized and into healing and recovery? And I'm not asking for the details of your situation. I'm
Mhm.
just saying, what, why did you decide to move forward?
Well, I would say probably what for me, like this most recent trauma that I went through, the
Mm-hmm.
pivot point for me was I just noticed how much it was impacting every aspect of my life,
Mm-hmm.
and from my emotional well-being, my mental well-being, my physical well-being, even like I was having panic attacks, and
Yeah.
it started to get really pretty bad. So it wasn't until I just said, "Hey, like I have got something has got to change, and I can't continue in this for
Mm-hmm.
anymore."
Yeah.
And it didn't instantly change for me,
No.
but it started the progress moving in the right direction.
Yeah. 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 So, okay. So, and how about, here's another question too, is that what has your forgiveness journey been like? What challenges have you faced along the way? And again, I'm not asking for details about your circumstance. I'm
Mhm.
just asking for, insights about your journey.
It has been tough. I would say that once I kind of got to my pivot point and realized, like, hey, this is not going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
This needs to be changed. Changes need to happen. Um, that I got faced with a lot of resistance from the other party,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was kind of like when I didn't want to stay stuck in this anymore. Um, and decided I was gonna figure out a different way forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like Satan started throwing every left, right, anything he could grab at me, he was flinging at me, and so it didn't start off easy at all. It actually kind of went from bad to worse,
Yeah.
and then had to you know um, get support and stuff to be
Mm-hmm.
able to figure out how to get forward on the whole thing. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
one thing
um,
you said though
yeah.
while I was going through all of that that I thought was really helpful is that when
Mm-hmm.
you're going through hell, don't stop. I know
Yeah.
that's a Winston Churchill
Yeah.
quote,
Quote. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but you know, it would be a little bit easier to just say, "Forget it. This is it. I'm done with all this stuff," and just give
Mm-hmm.
up and let the whole thing just take over. But you know, uh, either you're gonna end in hell or you're gonna get through it. So,
Yeah.
like, I didn't want that to be my.
Your
I'd
story.
rather get through it than get stuck in it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm convinced that no matter what happens to us,
Hmm.
we have to work through this issue of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And so, because it's really the only way forward, and it's not an easy journey. And I certainly respect you that you've had the courage to walk the journey.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, really at the end of the day, you're going to be the one who benefits from it
Yeah.
because you have your whole future to live.
Right.
and,
Yeah.
and why do you want to spend the rest of your life as a bitter, resentful, vengeful person?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, for sure.
but
Yeah.
uh, here's another important concept to remember is that recovery is not a race.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to finish. You do not have to reach the finish line in one big jump. You can give yourself credit for deciding to run this race, and you can celebrate whatever progress you've made, and you can give yourself permission to go at your own pace. So you don't have to be hurried through this. And with the folks that I work with, I really try to remain aware of their load bearing capacity,
Yeah.
because this is not easy lifting here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you load too much on a person too quick, all you're going to do is damage the muscle, the forgiveness muscle, rather than strengthen it.
Yeah.
So, but and finally, it's important to realize that a guide can help you to stay on track.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in other words, that's what we do here with New Destiny Coaching. Beyond Betrayal is a program that we have at New Destiny Coaching, and New Destiny Coaching is my life coaching business, and you are a Beyond Betrayal certified coach,
Mm-hmm.
and that what we like to do is help people to stay on track, because it's easy to get lost on the way, and particularly if you haven't kind of walked this path yourself, then I mean, in other circumstances, then you don't really know how to move forward.
Yeah.
The journey is tough, but it's worth it, and it's the only way to peace, freedom, and restored joy. So,
Yeah.
but anything
Yeah,
you'd
you
like to say?
definitely need to go through the journey yourself. I mean, it'd be like navigating for someone when you've never been somewhere.
Yeah, sailing waters you've never sailed, but being the navigator for waters you've never sailed.
Yeah, you don't want somebody who's inexperienced
Yeah,
navigating you.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you'll
So,
both end up lost.
yeah, really. Anything you'd like to say before we wrap this thing up for today?
Yeah. Well, forgiveness isn't easy, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that brings us actually to our final slide here, is that forgiveness is the only good path forward. It's what sets wounded hearts free. Hey, stay on the line, Karen. I would like to have a chance to kind of talk a little bit more with you, but for now, I'm going to wrap this thing up, okay?
Alrighty.
All right. So, yeah, you can check this out for yourself. We have a program called Beyond Betrayal, both on the web and then also on Facebook at beyondbetrayal.org. It's on beyondbetrayal.org on Facebook too. And we offer the resources to kind of guide you along with that for free. That we offer our coaching services for a fee, but I think we've been very generous with the resources to help you to understand this path. And that's what our goal is to continue to help you to understand this path and to work with you so that you can be free. Most of the people that I know who have questions about forgiveness are struggling with an issue about someone in their life. And so I would encourage you to kind of put that to rest and find the way to get beyond betrayal. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. I hope to see